Hi folks, well we're back with another one eventually. So I've got the trusty book, well it's a different book from last time, but Deserted Villages in Norfolk, and I've been scanning it and having a read, and there's a place called Appleton, and it says there's a church decayed in 1602, and Edward Paston, a noted Catholic recusant, was lord of all the lands. So that's piqued my interest. So I'm doing a bit of research into Appleton. Now I've got the map up. I'll show you where it is. I was going to go through it all with the map, trying to find it with you. But when I looked at the video clip, it took me 6 minutes to find it. So I'm not going to waste 6 minutes of your time browsing the map. So I've got the map up. I'll show you where it is on the map, and we'll take it from there. See ya. Here we go, folks. So we've got Sandringham just here. Now Appleton, apparently, which is, there's Appleton Farm. There's the church, St Mary's Church. That's what we're interested in. Now, apparently that was in the grounds, the original grounds of Sandringham. So whether I can even actually get to it, looking at this map I can, because I think Sandringham's now kind of this looks a bit on the outskirts of it, so hopefully we'll be able to get to it, get the drawing up, maybe. But so yeah, there we are, St Mary's Church remains of. So I'll see you there. Right folks, first of all, sorry for the delay. It only seems like a few seconds for you guys with the last clip, but really it's been a month since between the last clip and this one, because been on holiday, the wife's car broke down, so I've been stuck for 2.5 weeks. I've been stuck in the house, she's been out going to work, so I've not been able to get out and do anything. So it's been a bigger delay than I wanted, but anyway, so here we go. I said I'd do some research into the church, and I can tell you it just took me off on a fair few flipping tangents, flipping bouncing around, but I'll try and tell the story in a chronological order as best as I can, but some bits will overlap. So yeah, so here we go. So I'm off to the church, St Mary's Church in Appleton. But the story starts with the remains of the Roman villa. Now I've managed to find a map showing the villa in relation to the church. As you can see, I've got the map up here, and here's the Roman villa, and here's the church just over here. So the villa just located around the spring heads of Denbeck Woods, and these lie about 500 metres west of this route, which is known as Icknield Way, which is a famous walking route. But the villa was first identified in the 40s, when several concentrations of Roman building materials were noted on the surface of ploughed fields to the north and to the south of the woods. So if I switch to Google Earth, you'll see that's now covered in greenery. And if I get the measuring tool out, so if I click on the church, so as you can see, it's about 930 metres from the church to the villa. So the relevance of that will come later. So excavations carried out in 1947 and 48 revealed the underlying remains of at least 3 buildings, although the investigations were too limited to establish details of the plans of the buildings or the layout of the villa. But pottery and coins found on and around the villa site are dated from around AD 150 to 330, so suggesting it was occupied for about 180 years. I'll come back to the villa as it has a link with the church. So the story continues. So not long after the Romans left would come the early medieval ages, with little known about it, or Britain as a whole, to be honest, in that time period. Excuse me. But we do know that during the medieval period, Appleton was mentioned in the Domesday Book, that it was more densely populated than it is today, but the church already existed. So the church was almost certainly built, we can't know for sure, between the years 600 and the year 1000, with the probability being towards more the 9th, 10th century, a latter part of the medieval times. So as you can see in the Domesday Book here, the records show in 1086 it had a recorded population of 27 households, 20 smallholders working the fields, 2 slaves, 35 pigs and 14 sheep. That put it in the largest 40% settlements recorded in Domesday. So it was quite a large village in its time. So pre-Norman conquest. So it's listed under 2 lordships: Peter de Valoins, a Norman chief, and Roger Bigot, a Norman knight. Roger is going to be who we'll be discussing, because his land included the church, in addition to a hall surrounded by a moat to the southeast. If you look at Roger Bigot on the Domesday Book, he'd got nothing before the conquest, obviously, because that's when he came over, and he got 308 ownerships of land after the conquest. So in 1086 was the tenant-in-chief for he held land directly from the crown. And here we are, if we look, there's our Appleton. So whether he spent much time there is anybody's guess, but he certainly probably did for a short time. So just have a look at the land that he owned. I went from there. So I've got another page up about him. So here we go. He was a Norman knight who came to England in the Norman conquest. He had great power in East Anglia. 5 of his descendants were Earls of Norfolk. He was also known as Roger Bigot, but as a witness to the Charter of Liberties of Henry I of England, he appears as Roger Bigot. He came from a fairly obscure family of poor knights in Normandy. Certainly a relation of Roger's. Robert Le Bigot is certainly a relation of Roger's, possibly his father. So there we go. Very powerful man. And he was Lord of the Manor of Appleton. So he'll have seen the church at some point, I have no doubt. So there's Roger. I've actually got to go back a tiny little bit before the conquest, because in King Edward the Confessor's time, Appleton was held by Abba, ABA, under Stigand the Archbishop. They had a manor, 2 caracaters, or I don't even know how to say, caracates of land, 20 borderers, 2 servi, and 10 acres of meadow. There were 2 caracates in demesne, and 4.5 among the tenants, and there was a church that had 12 acres. Now we all know what church that is. So So the ownership of the manor after the Bishop family goes something like this, as far as records can tell. What's it? So the family of developers under King John's time, from 1199 to 1216, the developers family received land, a lot of land, after serving in the Battle of Hastings. The family also produced 3 Knights of the Guard. So they lived in the manor after Roger Bijot. Then, after the developers family owned it, it passed to Richard de Rochelle, who owned it in 1238 under the reign of Henry III. Then it passed to his son, William de la Rochelle, in 1286 under Edward I. And the La Rochelle family still owned the manor in 1316 under Edward II. And in 1347, William de la Rochelle was still Lord under Edward III. So he lived there for over 50 years. So without a doubt, he'd have certainly seen the church on a regular basis. He lived there for 50 years, so no doubt he used it. And did his thing there. After that, Sir John Copperdyke was Lord and owned it in 1386 under the reign of Richard II. He was knighted in 1402. But the Copperdyke family was forced to sell it to John Coquet in 1479 during Edward IV's reign. Then John Coinsby became the owner, along with another manor and 1,000 acres of land in 1545. Then Humphrey Coinsby was Lord in 1562 during the Elizabeth I period. Now these powerful people at the time, they all lived in that manor. They'd have all been into this church and walk past it every day or gone past it on horseback every day. It's just fascinating. But yeah, so after Humphrey Coinsby, it came to the Pastons. And we've got to thank these for the 17th century map of the estate. So here we have the manor map. This was drew up in the late 16th century survey. And if we zoom in, we see the double moated house is here. There's the manor hall, Appleton Hall, and here we've got the church, a wonderful church. There's a building there, and there's some old farm buildings just there. But generally, if you look, there's just not a lot of going on. It's just parcels of land divided up. Look there, look, Appleton Hall and that section of land. And it's just all owned by various landowners. But there's nothing. There's just, considering how many villages there was in the medieval times just now, so in the 1600s there's just nothing. It's strange how places populate and then depopulate. As I say, we have the Paston family to thank for this map. It was Sir Clement Paston distinguished figure, an old sea captain who Henry VIII used to call his champion. And the Paston family gave us the famous Paston letters, an extraordinary collection of over 1,000 messages written between 1422 and 1509 that gave us a detailed insight into what life was like in the Middle Ages, for the gentry at least. The letters are a noted primary source for information about life in England during the War of the Roses and the early Tudor period. They are also of interest to linguists and historians of the English language, being written during the Great Vowel Shift, documenting the transition from late Middle English to early modern English. So his nephew and heir, Sir Edward Paston, he was obviously more interested in building a grand manor than in maintaining the church, as by 1602 the church was in a bad state of repair. The Paston family lived in the hall for a few generations until it burned down in 1767. Quite a few sites say it burnt down in 1707, but in 1720 John Paston resided there and also lord of the place, so I'm swaying towards 1767. Bit of a typo, 0767, especially with the old style of writing. So, but anyway, it burnt to the ground. But the family was in great danger of being burned to death in their beds. But apparently a shepherd woke them up and saved all their lives. So, steeped in history, that old place. Steeped in history. Well, folks, as you can see, we're now at the church, eventually. So, as you can see, it's pretty much in ruins. But what an awesome building. Look at that. That's just amazing. Let me put that on wide angle a bit. Get a bit more in. Look at that. I'll just have a walk around it first. Look at that. A bit of a fence going on. Hopefully I can get in. Oh, yep, there's a gate. Look at that. Access. Just walk back a bit. Look at that round tower. This one's ticking both boxes. A round tower church. And a ruin. Amazing. Well, as I've said with all my previous videos, this dates back to medieval, late Saxon times. So estimated to have been built around about the year 900, 1000. Certainly the round tower is estimated to be from around about the 11th, 10th, 11th century. Look at that, and it's still standing. Amazing. Okay. Well, there's meant to be some parts of the Roman villa. Now, I don't know what's Roman. Are them bits Roman, or that just looks like normal house bricks to me, but obviously they're a bit thinner than normal. But I'm no expert as to what's Roman and what isn't Roman. But, yeah. So rightio. So it consists of a round west tower, still standing to its near full height. The remains of nave walls and the south porch. Well, there's the south porch. Look at that. Wow. Wow, just steeped in history, this thing. Just steeped in history. Formerly there was a chancel and a south aisle in addition, but these became disused and blocked off. Now I don't know which bit this is referring to. I can't, what bit's been blocked off? Let's just have a walk through, see if you can see anything blocked off. I don't know. Let's walk around this side. Well, I can't see the bit where the one about blocked off. Formerly there was a chancel and south aisle in addition, but these became disused and blocked off perhaps in the 16th century in an effort to reduce maintenance costs. Which bit are they talking about? Let's go around here and have a look. This is the south side here, so I don't know. So the round tower probably dates from the 11th century, has a flat east wall. That's this bit. Yeah, I see what they're saying, so it's round all the way around, but this side's flat. Okay. So, and it would appear to have been built against an earlier nave west wall. However, the lower parts of both tower and west wall consist chiefly of large lump of Sandringham stone to about 7 feet in height. This is known as silver cast stone, which is rarer than the darkened gingerbread cast stone. Above this level, both in the tower and the west wall, the fabric changes to thin pieces of cast stone. So yeah, so look, we've got big thick chunks of stone, and then it goes to skinnier stone. That makes sense, I suppose. You want to have the big ones at the bottom. The tower still stands to the springing at the top of the belfry windows. Let's go back out. I need to get out the need to get the drone out for that, which I will do. Although the heads of the windows have fallen. Well, yeah, you can see there's no tops to the very top of the tower. So what would have been the I don't know, top of the window is no longer. So some of the central shafts are still present. Well, I'll have a look, so I'll get the drone up. It would appear that there's been some major rebuilding of the tower at some stage, possibly fell quite early on, and possibly brought down the west gable of the church. How can they decipher all this? I just really don't know. I need to go and study some type of building course of some type. Look at these, look at that, that's just the north wall of the nave, which is this, of the nave, so that'll be what's it. It's made of large blocks of the grey Sandringham stone. Oh, that'll be these. Could date from Saxon times. In the south nave wall still stands the elegant, fine three arches. Certainly do. The 14th century arcade opening. How do they know that's 14th century? It beats me, it truly does. That's a piece of paper, say. These arches were later filled in, right? And the south porch was built against the wall, blocking the west bay of this arcading. But in spite of that, the ruined walls have survived remarkably well for a building that has been roofless for over 300 years. Wow. Yes, it reckons the iron fencing that's surrounding this has really helped with the preservation, because it keeps out the cattle, etc. Stops the building being used as scratching posts. But yeah, this must have been absolutely stunning when it was flipping in its prime. As I mentioned earlier, the Paston family moved into the manor that was just over there, and 3 of them are buried here in the late 17th century. By the 1770s, the building was occupied by livestock. The tomb, there's a few tombs there. There's Agnes Paston. Agnes Paston, Julie Everard de Linstead, AD 1676. And it looks like there's another one there. I don't know which one's which. One is another one there. Rest in peace, people. One's Frances, the widow of Edward Paston. And on a third, I'm guessing that one, Tho Paston. Also Henry Daniel of Appleton was buried in the church in 1498, and his son Daniel in 1539. So I'm just in here. We've got another gravestone of somebody, maybe that's Henry Daniel. So there's the church. And here on the wall, I don't think this is natural. Mercedes-Benz hubcap by the look of it. Some vegetation growing out up the top there. Amazing. So I'll go through the fence and see if I can get a distant view of it. Well, I've got through the fence. Here we are. Magnificent little church. Magnificent. So there's the church. And just 50 yards south of it, there's a curious spring. Look at that. Called Holy Well. A little stream comes from it. I mean, when was this built? Probably the same time period, so 1,000 years old. Wow. Wow, I'm expecting a little fairy to pop out of flipping water or something. Look at that, magical. Magical. There's the church that I prayed there back in the day. Maybe this was where the village got their water. Yeah. Amazing. Well, the story continues. You know, the Manor Hall burnt down in 1767. Well, I presume it stayed as just a burnt down ruin for 100 years or so. But in the 1860s, Albert Edward, Prince of Wales, purchased 8,000 acres of land for Sandringham, and this included the grounds of Appleton. And Appleton House was built as part of the Sandringham estate in the 1860s, and it was on the site of the former Manor Hall that burnt down. So in 1896, Princess Maud of Wales married her first cousin, Prince Carl of Denmark, later to become King and Queen Consort of Norway. Appleton House, part of the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, was given to the newlyweds as a wedding present from Maud's parents, the Prince and Princess of Wales. In a letter to his brother-in-law, Crown Prince Frederick of Denmark wrote, "I have given Maud and Charles a small house, their own country retreat, about 1 mile from Sandringham. They will always have a pied à terre when they come over to England. I know they will appreciate this very much," and I'm sure they did. Maud loved Appleton House. "Our little house is a perfect paradise. It all seems like a dream that we are here at last. It is so beautiful and light. Every single room is so clean and fresh, and such wonderful care has been taken of my things, as we have 2 very able maids who are here all year round." The house was not very grand. It had 20 rooms, 4 of which were sitting rooms, as well as a conservatory, and was situated in gardens that had been designed by the Prince of Wales. And Queen Maud enjoyed walking through the manicured lawn. Maud and Carl, who was elected as King of Norway in 1905, they were living at Appleton House when she gave birth in 1903 to the couple's only child, Prince Alexander, whose name was changed to Olaf 2 years later. So he was born in Appleton House. After Queen Maud's death, the King returned Appleton House to George VI. And in 1939 he visited Appleton House to express his gratitude to the British staff for their faithful service to Queen Maud. So King George VI and Queen Elizabeth stayed at Appleton during a visit to Norfolk during the Second World War. Princess Elizabeth and Margaret also stayed there when they visited Sandringham during this time. Queen Mary stayed there in 1946 and 47, but after this, Appleton ceased to be a royal residence. It fell into disrepair and was surrounded by an air raid shelter during World War II. By the 60s, removing the structure was deemed too expensive, and in July 84, Appleton House was torn down. So there we go. So that's the history of Appleton Hall that burnt down and then became Appleton House. So throughout its 1,000-year history, that church has seen a lot of powerful people come and go. Right, boy, they all must have gone into the church at some time or another. So it's got if these walls could talk, what would they say? What would they say? It's just fascinating, the history that this place has got. And you just look at it now, and it just looks like just a ruined church, but it's just amazing the changes that have happened all in this area. And now look at it, it's just a quiet, desolate, lonely church. If only it could talk. Hi folks, well that's the church pretty much done with, but there's a little bonus if you want to use that term. I noticed during the research that there was a water tower very close to the church, and here we've got the church, And there's a water tower. Now this water tower was part of the Sandringham estate, and it used to feed the estate their water. So interesting, I believe it's still standing. So while I'm here, while we're at the church, thought I'd go and have a look at the water tower and see what's what. Well, here we are at the water tower, folks, and it looks mighty impressive already. As I said earlier, it was built to serve the nearby estate. It's a tall red brick tower, dominates the skyline, it certainly does. It somewhat dwarfs the church's round tower. This is an elaborate 19th century water tower. It was erected to supply the estate in 1877. Look at it. It's fantastic. It was soon after the rural estate was established. It was designed by Mr. Martin Folkes, the top story housing the iron water tank and the two lower stories being living accommodation for the water engineer and the caretaker. The tower has an external stair turret which leads to a viewing room. Oh, sorry about that. It's really windy. I was really struggling to control that drone. So yeah, it has an external stair turret which leads to a viewing room used by the royal family, and it has been restored by the Landmark Trust. But look at that. What a beautiful building. They certainly knew how to build things. It's not just your standard water tower, that's magnificent. A work of art, that is. Beautiful. Okay, folks, that's about the end of St Mary's Church in Appleton. Hope you enjoyed it. It went off on some wild tangents, chasing things and people, and there was actually more. There was some intriguing things about the Pastons, but it was just a long video as it was. And so, but yeah, so hope you enjoyed it. On to the next one, wherever it may be. See you there. Oh, sorry about the microphone quality, and it probably bounces up and down. Just bought myself a snazzy new mic and sorted out the sound levels between video and just voice recording, and I only bought this halfway through, so the audio might be a bit horrific, this one. So if it is, I apologise. And my drone footage wasn't the best, but again, I'm learning that. I've only just bought it, so just doing what I can, trying to get the churches out there for everyone to see. Okay, see you at the next one.